Picture a mother in 1764 standing at the edge of her cottage in rural France, watching her 14-year-old daughter disappear down the path toward the pastures. The same walk the girl has made 100 times before. The same morning mist clinging to the valleys of Gevaudan. Jean Boule will never come home. Her body will be found hours later with her throat torn out, her skull crushed like an eggshell, and her head nearly severed from her body, hanging by threads of flesh. The local priest will refuse to give her last rites, not because of how she died, but because of what killed her. Over the next 3 years, something will slaughter over 100 people across this remote province. Seasoned wolf hunters who'd killed thousands of wolves between them will stand frozen in disbelief when they see it. It will shrug off musket balls, walk upright on its hind legs, and choose its victims with an intelligence that defies every law of nature. When King Louis XV's own gun-bearer finally kills what they claim is the beast and parades it through Versailles, the attacks won't stop. They'll get worse. And here's what changes everything. The autopsy report from 1767, lost for nearly 2 centuries, revealed human remains in the creature's stomach alongside surgical scars on its body, marks around its neck suggesting it once wore a collar, and teeth filed into patterns that serve no natural purpose. This isn't just some historical curiosity. This is the story of how an entire nation was brought to its knees by something that officially doesn't exist. Let me take you back to the summer of 1764, to a remote province that was about to become the epicenter of France's darkest nightmare. Gevaudan wasn't just isolated. It was the kind of place where medieval Europe hadn't quite let go. Thick forests carpeted the landscape, broken only by scattered villages where maybe 50 souls huddled together against the wilderness. No proper roads, no regular patrols. Just shepherds, farmers, and their children scraping a living from rocky soil while wolves howled in the distance. The 7 Years' War had just ended, draining France of money and men. The young people who survived were often alone in the fields, watching livestock vulnerable, perfect hunting grounds for a predator. But the locals knew wolves. Every farmer could tell you how to scare them off, how they moved, how they hunted. Wolves were just part of life, like bad weather or poor harvests. So, when a young woman tending cattle reported being attacked in April of 1764 by what she described as like a wolf, yet not a wolf, people dismissed it. Her cattle had driven the creature off. She was hysterical, confused. Then came June 30th and Jean Boule's mutilated corpse. The parish register would later record something unprecedented. The priest wrote that she had been killed by the ferocious beast. Not a wolf, not an animal, but the beast. As if there could only be one. As if everyone already knew what he meant. Within weeks, the attacks exploded across the region. But these weren't normal predator kills. The beast wasn't eating its victims, at least not entirely. It was destroying them. Witnesses found bodies with heads twisted backward, faces torn completely off, throats not just bitten, but excavated. One survivor, a young boy, described watching the creature kill his friend. It placed its paws on his shoulders, almost gentle-like, before opening its mouth wider than any wolf could and taking his entire head inside. By September, 7 people were dead. By October, 12. The creature seemed to be everywhere at once, attacking in broad daylight in multiple locations, sometimes on the same day, miles apart. It showed no fear of humans, no normal animal behavior. When groups of children tried to defend themselves with sticks and stones, it would sit just out of reach, watching them with what survivors called eyes like hot coals, waiting for one to separate from the group. The beast's appearance defied classification. Every witness agreed on certain details that made no sense together. It was the size of a calf or young bull, far larger than any wolf. Its fur was reddish-brown with a black stripe running down its spine like a hyena's mane. The head was massive but wrong, elongated like a greyhound's, but with a snout compared to a calf's, broad and flat. The tail was its most distinctive feature. Longer than a wolf's, thick as a man's arm, with a tuft at the end that it could allegedly use to knock full-grown adults off their feet. But it was the way it moved that truly terrified people. Witnesses described it bounding across fields in leaps of 20 feet or more, its back legs propelling it with impossible power. One shepherd watched it clear a stone wall 7 feet high without slowing down. Another saw it stand on its hind legs, perfectly balanced, using its front paws to try door latches. Captain Jean-Baptiste Duhamel, a military officer sent to investigate, wrote to his superiors with barely concealed panic. It has a breast as wide as a horse, a body as long as a leopard, fur that is red with a black stripe. You will undoubtedly think, like I do, that this is a monster, the father of which is a lion. What its mother was remains to be seen. The local response was chaos. Farmers abandoned their fields. Children were kept inside. Markets emptied as people refused to travel. The economy of an already impoverished region began to collapse. Desperate villagers tried everything: poison bait traps, organized hunts with hundreds of volunteers. Nothing worked. The beast seemed to know exactly where the ambushes were, which paths to avoid, when hunters would be distracted. And then something extraordinary happened that would transform a local crisis into a national obsession.